Good morning and welcome to another episode of the Urban Homesteading channel with Professor DIY, Mrs. DIY, and behind the camera Elpida. Hey there, I didn't expect you to be here already. You are our favorite viewer, and stick with us today because this is going to be an extremely fun and useful episode. Today we're going to have a fun project for you. We're going to build some custom bookends that will allow you to change their appearance to match the season. One of the neat things about DIY is that you can do anything you want any way you want it, right? And of course, a lot of people these days live in smaller houses, like we currently live in a small house, and space is at a premium. So if you want to have seasonal decorations, you have to make like many sets of the same thing that looks different, right? For Christmas, for birthdays. So in our case, we're going to make a set of book sets that will allow you, bookends, that will allow you to change the look, and we're going to show you in a moment, to match the season without having to store things, right? What you have to store is going to be flat, can go in a drawer, will be very easy to do, right? So stick around, this is going to be a very, very good episode. So some of us are artistic, like Elpida and Mrs. DIY, and some of us cannot draw to save our lives, right? If you're artistic, you can draw whatever you want and trace it and make the outline, and this will make sense in a moment, right? But if you're not artistic like me, the interwebs are full of shapes, and we went and printed some.
We found some shapes. That one's a little light on the camera, but there you go. There's our next shape.
And this can be whatever you want. For us, this will be fall-like, right? But you can write letters to, like happy birthday or whatever, you know. This is the obsession of Elpida, and this is fall again. This will be another scrap project for us, right? But even if you have to buy the material, this is going to be fairly inexpensive, probably under $10. And if you go to any of the big stores and buy scraps or leftovers and things like that, and that could be a very easy way to do that. So the whole idea is that we're going to make an L bracket that will serve as the bookend, and they're going to be facing each other, right? Does it make sense? One will be like this, the other will be like this. And then on the outside of the bracket, we're going to put whatever shape we want, right? And the idea is to make it colorful and etc., right? So stick around, we're going to show you every step of the way. So we start by cutting our shapes. So this is the third grade level project, is that what we're doing?
Sure.
So why you're not cutting it fully on the line? Why you're leaving space there?
How are we going to attach it to the...
We can glue it, we can put double-sided stuff, I mean, you know, whatever you want. You're moving too much, and I'm giving whiplash to our viewers. Payback, huh? For when I move too much?
Maybe. It's not as easy as it looks keeping up with somebody who's just moving randomly, right?
Right, and since you know that, you should move unrandomly.
Oh, says he.
Says he.
Says he. So that means that you're going to adjust your movements, right?
Always. I'm the most adjustable person you know. Now another way you could do this would be to just cut the thinner material the width of your bookend, and then laser those shapes, and then you can paint them if you want, right? I'm just giving different methodologies.
Which might actually be fun, but I think getting our laser out right now would be challenging, right?
No, that's the easy part. Printing those was more challenging than laser.
Oh, I see.
All right, we're going to finish our third grade project and we'll be right back with you. And this is Professor DIY from the future. We decided to actually go with the lasering option, as you're going to see in a moment, because they seem to be very intensive to use a jigsaw and cut all these shapes. Well, you can still do that, and if you do that, what we're showing you here is relevant. We went another way, so we can do it in a faster way And it ended up really good and gave us a lot of awesome ideas. So the first step is to select the wood you're going to use for this project, right? We selected the remnants of this. I don't recommend you go and buy this for this project because even one board will be highly expensive, right? You can use, we're using it because this is remnants for us. We used it when we first moved in the house to make a wall, a feature wall.
You
And
should
we
put
just,
the card up there.
right,
so
and we
people
just
know.
have it. And you can use something like plywood. It is very crooked.
So this is tongue and groove.
Right.
And that's why he's saying it's going to be more expensive. So that's not what you want to use ideally for your project. But again, this is scrap wood for us, so this makes it a zero cost.
Correct. But you can use something like this and it will be equally fun, you know? And most people have plywood scraps somewhere. We decided to go with this because we have it. It is not easy to find projects for this. And this is an ideal project. It just happened to be the one we have. And what we're going to do, of course, we're going to remove the tongue and groove because for this project it doesn't make sense. Right?
Correct.
So tell me. Does it look right?
Yeah.
All right. Let's start
And
cutting.
so, hold on.
Yes.
Because we have two boards that we're going to need to use, we're going to cut the tongue off of both boards since we have our fence set, and then we're going to reset it to cut the groove off of both boards. So we will have to make a slight adjustment, right?
Yes. You can clearly see here there is a bow on this board that will make the miters very challenging. It is best to use plywood or any other stable wood that will make this process of making the angles much easier and will take you much less time. But in any case, we like this wood and we make it work, but it took a little bit more time than would otherwise have taken if we've used just plywood or another stable piece of wood. Now, of course, another advantage if you use plywood, you will not have to do this step
Right.
because it will be already.
But now we have a nice clean edge, and that's what we were going for, right?
You will still have to cut it to width, right? Which is in essence what we're doing here.
Let's check that since we switched out our board just to make sure.
It should be identical.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So now we need to reset the fence to
Take the tongue out,
the groove.
the groove. The tongue, the groove, you know.
We just removed the tongues from both boards. So now
I cannot see where the blade is, so tell me how far to go.
bring the board up a little bit more. Yeah, there we go.
And as you can see now, we're totally flat, nice flat boards.
Both edges are flat. That's what we were going for. The only detail that we still have is this little groove, which is considered, it's supposed to be like a decorative detail for
Right.
these particular boards. And we may integrate that into our design or not. We're still working
Right.
that
We
out.
may or
right?
may not.
We're
Right.
still working that out, but I just wanted to point that out. That's the only now decorative element we have on that board.
So we're going to use a piece of scrap wood to test our dimensions for our channel, right? I don't think that's, I think we need to take a little more off.
Yeah. That's not quite enough.
So how much do you think we need to take off? Do we need to double it or?
So when we did the test piece, one blade width was not quite enough, so we're doing an eyeball of another half a blade width. And now we're checking our fitment.
This is kind of still a little side.
Okay, so we need to do a little bit, just another little pass to take a little, probably a hair off. I think you flipped it. You have flipped the board. Third time's a charm, maybe. You took another little hair of that channel off, and that looks like it's a really great fit.
Yep, it is perfect.
So
now that we know that this is doable on our table saw, we are going to use our actual material, which is this.
and that's where this decorative channel comes in. It's going to be a really good placement.
We hope.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so now that we've done the test cut on our scrap piece, we're going to do this on the actual pieces where we have the groove, and we have realigned our fence so that we are cutting the saw blade right there on that decorative groove that we showed you. And we've already shown you the swipe with the saw, so we're not going to show you that again. We just wanted to tell you that's how we aligned it.
Yes, this is not the best way to do this because we're going to move the piece this way and we have the fence here, right? But let's do it safer. This is our dimension here. Can I have a small? It is not a good idea to have a miter cut like we're doing here, touching the fence, right? Because that can do a kickback. So what we did is holding this where we want it, I added a piece of scrap, and now we have a distance, right? You see that?
Mm-hmm.
And we have it here at 90 degrees. Something concerns you. Our pieces are cut, and for a nice fit, we're going to do a little sanding because we have a little bit of fuzzy here.
Fuzzies, that's
Fuzzies.
the technical term, right?
It is the technical term.
Are you going to
absolutely.
sand?
No.
You're not?
Blasphemy. Blasphemy.
Okay.
Am I going to sand?
Well, I just thought I'd ask.
What are you talking to? That is not sanding, that's picking.
Yeah, well. Yep.
There is nothing more fun, more exciting to watch than sanding.
What about paint drying?
Well, or grass growing, you know.
Right.
I think they're in the same category.
I'm just saying. There's options here, right?
Every project we make, we have a learned lesson, right? Or a lesson learned. And in this episode, we learned the importance of having a very good miter gauge, right?
Mm-hmm.
We always had a better miter gauge that came with our saw. And some people discount it, say, well, it doesn't make a difference, right? We found out today it makes a difference. This is the miter gauge that came with our saw. And as we were cutting the 45s, we noticed that it was not being true. Even though we have made it perfect at 90, at the end of the cut, it was not at 90 anymore, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is not uncommon, like every other one that it is coming with a saw. This just depends on friction to keep there is no
Right.
detents, right? And this one has this that you can potentially use as a detent, but it is very, very convoluted way. You know, you have to put that down and then put a screw, and you know,
Uh-huh.
because you see when it is there, it's not 90 anymore.
Ah,
So it is not correct.
it's not true. Mhm.
You need to use one of those type of screws, and those move. Again, this is a table saw. It vibrates.
Right? Okay.
And screws vibrate. So yes, there is a way, because I can see people say, "Oh, you're stupid. You don't know how to use it." there are ways to do this. Yes, I know there are ways to do that. But when you do a project, you really do not want to have to fiddle with things all the time, right?
Right.
So this worked flawlessly.
This is one that you bought separately from the table saw.
Correct. This is about $90. And it looks very similar, but it is clear, heavier duty. It has detents, as you see. And the 90 detent is right on, it's perfect. And he has detents on 75 and 60 and 45 and 30, which are your most common angles, right?
Okay.
So if you're doing a lot of miters or angle cuts on your table saw or your miter saw, this can be a must. I think this is worth it, even though technically this is 90 bucks and the saw was 600, so that's almost a sixth the price of the saw, right? And sounds ridiculous, but we found out today, not figure out, it does worth the money.
Yeah, it definitely made a difference on those cuts.
So that was the lesson we learned for today, unless you have something else, Elpida.
Nope, I think that was it.
Other than that, we had a blast working on this project. Look at the fancy equipment we're using here, folks. Doesn't get much fancier than that. And that, we spent extra money, because that came from the dollar store, if I'm not mistaken.
It did.
So, that goes to show you don't need expensive equipment. This is a very useful piece of kitchen equipment, right?
Yeah, it is.
And it doesn't abrade your hands, and it allows you to hold the thing fine, and it costs $1.25.
Right.
Again, sparing no expenses are Harbor Freight clamps.
These work great though.
They really work great, absolutely.
We've used these on a lot of projects. They're not very expensive, obviously not high tech like some of the newer ones, but they really do the job, and that's all you can want, right?
Right.
So now we've got these kind of set in place. The next step is to put some glue in this joint, and then we're going to put 2 or 3 brad nails just to hold them together until the glue dries.
So we've done a very complicated gluing process here. We have a clamp putting pressure this way because the brad nails will have a tendency to move. These are small pieces, right? So when we brad nail, it will have a tendency to move.
So is this good like this to go in?
Or the other way, because you won't be interfering with that.
Or can I?
Hey.
That's all right. I don't know how to...
Do you want me to do it? There you go. The angle. Let's go down or up or whatever. It needs to be perfectly perpendicular.
Okay. We're off.
Yep, I know. I see.
This needs to loosen a little bit because we're off.
So we are done. We have a very nice tight angle there. And how is the outside angle? Very nice. We're going to hit it with a little bit of sanding. I know I keep saying sanding, don't I?
Sanding? Who are you?
And we're going to let that dry, and we're going to repeat the process on this one. Now, one of the reasons we've stopped using the air strike is because it's too picky on the angle,
Well, the other thing is the striker does tend to get caught, and it doesn't want to actually fire.
It needs lubrication.
Lubrication, so it's a little more fussy
Maintenance required.
than some of the other tools.
But it works. I'm not going to knock the tool down, but it is more finicky than our air gun.
Right.
And we're going to repeat for the second, and we were going to go on to the next step. So for expediency, we decided to laser the shapes we're going to use. And as we're doing that, we're full of new ideas, right, Elpida?
No, yeah.
So the options are almost endless on what you can do with that. You can laser cut it, and we might try that. We're not trying it today because we'll try to finish the project. But you can laser cut them. You can...
A finished one. We're doing a second one that's just about finished here.
And the only change between the first and the second is the mirror image.
Right.
So we mirror image them, so when you're looking at them in the bookshelf, they will look like they're in a mirror versus... But you can put pictures, you can make those look like little frames. You can even laser a frame around them.
You certainly could, and then you can put your own custom pictures in there, whatever you'd like to have.
So the probabilities are endless on this kind of project. We're going to make at least one more shape so we can show you. And we're going to be right back with you. our bookends are finished, and now we're going to put finish on them. See what I did there?
Yeah.
Finish the finish. And these are straightforward. I mean, they're fairly simple in design. I think most everyone can do it with minimal tools.
Yeah.
The groove might be a little challenge if you don't have a stable saw. And we decided on 3 designs for this project, but the possibilities are literally endless, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the way this is designed, it's just like a key. You don't need to do anything else, right? That's it.
Right.
And you can change them as easy as that.
Mm-hmm.
So you can make as many of those, let's call them inserts, right?
Yeah.
You can make as many as you want with any theme you want. It can be words, it can be, whatever you want.
Right. Seasonal sayings.
And they can be portrait or landscape,
Yeah. There we go.
The only trick of that is that remember to flip them over, right? When you do the design.
So the way we did these laser designs, you can see that they are mirror imaged. So that's the only tricky thing, is to make sure it's mirrored.
And also, don't be like us and pay attention that where you laser or paint, you don't have big knots.
Right. We were more concerned with making sure we had enough wood for this concept. If we were painting this, it probably won't be a problem at all. But if you wanted to stain this or do something, it's going to affect the appearance.
And also, if you have a laser, you can easily cut little adhesive plastic sheets that you can buy at Walmart for a couple of dollars. And then it will become a 3-dimensional piece of art, right?
And these pieces will exactly fit there.
They're the same thing. They're the same.
Yep.
Identical.
Mm-hmm.
So as you can see, this is very, very versatile. So at this point, you can stop, right? You can say, this is it. I use it and I'm very happy with it.
Uh-huh.
But this is the Urban Homesteading channel with Elpida. You think we're stopping there? Of course we're not stopping there. People that have been with our channel a long time know that I like this look, so I would be fine with just a tad of oil on it, But Elpida, primarily because of her decor, or I guess to a large degree, I don't know if it's primary,
Yeah.
likes stain.
Well, to be honest, what I really like is the Shusugi Ben burning, but these will warp if we do that. So I'm going to use stain instead. And this darker stain is going to pretty closely match a lot of the things that I've got that are burned, and it'll be okay.
So small pieces are very likely to warp if you Suzuki bind them.
Right, and I don't want to do that after we did all this hard work of...
And while it is a simple project, it takes some doing, right? I mean, it is not...
Yeah, it took us a little bit to do those, to make sure we were cutting them all correctly. And especially when you're using that groove, you have to make sure, at least for us, because we were using scrap wood, the groove was not centered on the board. So that means that we had to make sure that we aligned the boards correctly. So as you can see, this side is slightly wider than that side, right?
Right.
So we had to make sure that when we were cutting the 45s, that we were cutting them correctly.
And the reason we decided that was because the groove was kind of already there. Made it a little easier on our saw. And again, the staining process is straightforward, as you can see. I don't put too much strain in the joint. It's not fully cured.
So
and again, the brad nails are there to act as a clamp. We do not depend on them for strength. On a project like this, they actually do add some strength, right?
Yes.
And of course, the other neat thing about these inserts is that they will add stability to the bookend, right?
Yes.
They will not allow it to tilt. So it is a multi-purpose thing.
Multifaceted design, which
Multi-tool.
which can be a little deceptive because it looks like it's very simple, but when you put those in there, it actually adds strength to the project.
And really, without taping, this is an afternoon project, right? It's not a...
Oh yeah.
And really, if you pay attention to details, it is not a difficult project, but you just need to pay attention to detail. Our 45, primarily because this specific wood was a little warped, so we had to finagle them a little bit. Is that right?
A little bit, yeah, finagled.
Now, if you were using plywood, you wouldn't have those issues, but Again, we use remnants of a tongue and groove board. It was a little warped, but it was time to be used, right?
Right, and we found a use for it, which is nice when you can find something to do with the scraps that keep, we keep accumulating.
May I ask, for the sake of our viewers, why you're staining the underside?
Because I want the whole thing stained. And it's mine and it's going in my house.
And there you go, people.
That's why.
And that's how the story goes.
Right.
We're going to stain the other one and we'll be right back with you. So this is another option you have if you have a laser. I think it will be very hard to do by hand, but the laser makes a perfect cut. And you need a little bit of distance, like the distance that you see on the machine. It doesn't have to be perfect. And you could even paint the background black so it will be more prominent. Is that the right term?
Yeah, it wouldn't necessarily have to be black, but it could be anything. You could make it black for the standout, or you could make it like variegated colors. You could do some kind of a fall theme scene, and
Right.
then you're adding these for that three-dimensional effect, right?
Yeah, and if you want to get really fancy, you can make a couple and you have color contrast, right?
Right.
So the things that you see still left behind can be printed on a black, for example, you know. These are perfect laser cut. That's what the laser is excelling at, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So we're going to show you the final result. So if you have a laser, this is a great idea because it creates a three-dimensional piece, right?
Uh-huh.
And as you can see, with one laser cut, you can get two different looks.
Right.
So there are many options, and that's why I think every hobby should have a laser. Now Elpida has one, and I have to teach her more of how to use it, but she has one, and of course we have one, and we have upgraded the laser. But this, you can see, gives a different dimension. It's the same thing, same but different.
It just gives you a lot more possibilities if you think outside the box of only using wood to using other types of material,
Right.
and how you might like to add some dimension to your projects.
So you can see that this project can become extremely customizable. Well, ladies, what do you think of this project? First of all, that was Elpida's design and idea.
Yep.
Is that close to what you were envisioning?
The way we have decided to use the displays is a little bit different than what I was originally thinking, but I think it worked out this way because this does make it so much more usable throughout the year.
Versatile, yeah.
Versatile, and changing up your decorations. And obviously you can keep adding planks and whatever you want in there. If you wanted to put something that said something, if you wanted to wish somebody a happy birthday, there's so many things that you can do with this. Just having this basic L bracket with the groove, and then just deciding. And something else we talked about was making like this into like a little frame, and you could put pictures in there of your loved ones.
Yep.
Absolutely. What was the hardest part, you guys think?
I think lining up, because again the groove is not centered on this board because we were using scrap. It's not
Right.
centered. Lining that up when we were cutting the angles was maybe the most challenging part.
And even if you try to be in center, probably you will still have to line it up. It probably will be
Right.
slightly off anyway, right? So.
Yeah. But again, I think it was a really good use of some scraps we had around.
What skill level do you think this is?
Intermediate, maybe. Beginner, intermediate.
Yeah.
Now, if you do not have a laser, you can draw those, right?
Yeah, you can draw them, you can trace
You
them.
can trace them, so they are. You don't necessarily have to have a laser to complete this project.
Right.
We use scrap, so our net cost is absolutely zero. But if you were to buy the material, I would go to Lowe's or Home Depot and buy just scraps, right? This would be an under $10 project that most certainly you cannot buy for under $10. Well, folks, we hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you did, we'd appreciate a thumbs up. If you didn't, hit the other button twice. Share, like, subscribe. Let us know, would you like us to make more episodes like this? From Professor DIY, Mrs. DIY and Elpida, let's decorate together.